everyone. Welcome to the Self-Healing Communities podcast, where we give you a deeper understanding of the neurobiology of trauma, healing, and human resilience. This podcast is put on by the Self-Healing Communities of the Greater Michiana region. The Self-Healing Communities of Greater Michiana's mission is to nurture personal and community well-being through the neuroscience of human resilience and the celebration of our collective strengths. This is episode 2, where we will be diving into what experiences led Dr. Nancy Michael to believe in the Self-Healing Communities model. We will have Dr. Nancy Michael join us as our guest. Stay tuned. Today, we have Dr. Nancy Michael, the Director of Undergraduate Studies for Neuroscience and Behavior in the College of Science for the University of Notre Dame. And we will just be talking about her experiences leading up to Self-Healing Communities. So welcome, Dr. Michael.
Thank you, Karina. It's great to be here.
Yes. So in the last episode, we talked about what Self-Healing Communities is, a little bit about human resilience, but I kind of wanted to ask, what makes you believe in the Self-Healing Communities model? I mean, there's probably a lot of community change models that exist, a lot of skepticism that can come around those, and what kind of narratives comes with those. But what experiences have you had that moved you to buy into the Self-Healing Communities model?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question, and probably way too long for a podcast to go into all of it. But I think a lot of it, right? Like, so much of the way that I kind of view the world and understand the world has been completely pivoted by understanding the brain and behavior, right? Understanding that the nervous system actually has expectations of its environment, which was like mind blowing, right? That like, wait, what? I thought we were all just good. But yeah, but the developing and developed nervous system actually has expectations of, relationship, security, safety, in addition to, yes, of course, food and water, but just how like central and foundational and fundamental those aspects of relationship are. I was a non-traditional graduate student, so I went and I did undergrad, and I worked for almost a decade, and I went back to grad school. And while I was in grad school, I was learning all this stuff about neuroscience, and I had my first kid, right? And so watching her grow kind of parallel to all of these things that I was learning about neural development, again, was just one of those, it was literally life-changing, right? My understanding of neuroscience completely changed so many of the ways that I would have otherwise engaged as a caregiver, right? That was a pretty seminal season of life. Kind of also during graduate school, I had opportunities to do community engagement work, specifically with educators. And it was like a 2-week intensive institute where it was really deep dives into the neuroscience of learning and memory, kind of aligned with all of the state and federal educational standards, and what we understood of kind of emotional salience. And watching and witnessing and taking part in conversations with these educators, again, like understanding the mechanism of brain function and the expectations of like, we are ultimately like the emergent capacity of trillions of cells working in coordinated fashion. Right? That's awesome. Yeah. Like awestruck, amazing. But watching the shift in them, right? That they'd had so much more control over learning environments than they ever gave themselves credit for. So like how brains actually learn and remember, and how these educational strategies actually shift function of neural circuits that really do enable them to learn better, right? And that educators have power in that and control in that, right? Those were some pretty seminal moments. And then since landing at Notre Dame, right? Again, it's just the power of understanding. There's a very academic term called perceived self-control, right? So studies have been done in like cancer literature and, studies like that, where like understanding the process of treatments helps reduce the stress and anxiety associated with treatment. Doesn't change the treatment course, but this perceived self-control of understanding what's coming next gives an individual, understanding what's going to happen, what's going to come next, gives an individual an opportunity to prepare. Right?
Having agency a little bit.
Yeah, the agency piece, right? And so understanding, the cool thing about neuroscience is understanding despite no matter how different we might all seem and all the ways in which people get like all up in arms, whatever, like we're universally human, right? That these expectations of nervous system function are universally human. And so it allows for respect of family and culture and community to be able to step into what the nervous system expects based on the strengths of where we come from, right? I mean, you know what I mean? Communicating and seeing the impact of communicating when you get to have a conversation with a person and be like, hey man, it's okay, right? Like, it was okay that you were 8 and sad. Or like, hey caregiver, your physiology regulates your kids' physiology. So like, let's help you. So that you can better help. Right. Them. Right. And that's powerful. Right. And so to see that and to see that kind of ripple effect and to see the hope kind of gifted in understanding. And the cool thing about neuroscience is it's not perceived self-control. It is actually self-control, right? Because the more that we think about the behavior, the more that we are kind of introspective in understanding ourselves, the more control we actually have. Like we actually have the capacity to change our own brains for our own well-being and for the well-being of the people around us.
A follow-up question with that is, okay, like I'm sold. This is the way that we need to treat each other and exist. But how did you find the self-healing communities model, which was first done in Washington State? Like, how did you come across that work?
So all of this work, I think, started years and years and years ago, even before I moved to South Bend. The hospital systems here, Beacon Community Impact and St. Joe, do these community health needs assessment. And so in 2012 and 2015, Beacon Community Impact identified childhood abuse and trauma, I think, as the #2 health concern, second to like diabetes or obesity or something like that. I arrived slightly after those and started doing this community engaged work. And so there are a lot of community capacity building models that are out there. There are a lot of change theory models. It's like every discipline has their own kind of language. So whether it's public health, performance improvement, strategic planning, there's a lot of different language around it. And so I would say the biggest pivot of the self-healing communities model is that it leads with the evidence of what nervous systems need. So there's this acronym that's really commonly used in the self-healing communities model. It's called NEAR science. So neuroscience, epigenetics, ACEs, which is an acronym within an acronym, which is terrible. ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and resilience. So resilience also includes those positive childhood experiences or protective factors, because we don't get to be resilient without those, right? And so again, I think when we talk about individual and community wellness from the perspective of my background or your background or your culture or Joe's culture, or right, like it's really easy to get stuck in the weeds of where we come from and kind of being right. Which is contrary to all of the goals of individual and community wellness. Like it actually works against those goals. So the reason I think that I love this particular model is that here are the universal requirements for human wellness.
And health.
That balanced autonomic tone is essential for well-being. Right. And the autonomic tone being like all of the ways in which my understanding and experience with the environment affects my heart rate, my blood pressure, how I feel, right? Like my endocrine systems, my immune system, my stress reactivity, my thought processes, my ability to focus or not, right? That's all kind of captured in this label of autonomic tone. And those are non-negotiables for humans, period. Right. And so I think that I love the self-healing communities model is because the goal of it is to, in my mind, right, the way that I understand it, it is a community capacity building, general community capacity building strategy, very much like every other general community capacity building strategy, but it leads with this evidence. Here are human requirements, right? They are biological obligations. And there's no getting around those, right? And then we can look at those biological obligations for all humans and be like, okay, how can we do the best that we can? Right.
For our audience, could you just speak a little bit to what community capacity is? Because that might not be a term that everyone's familiar with.
So general community capacity is a bounce, right? Like that's the way I think about it, at least, right? That like we all can think about our own experiences and think about seasons in life where we were able to absorb whatever was coming at us and be able to like bounce up for, you know what I mean? Like there was like spring to us, or like, like a rubber ball. We just were able to like bounce back if we even got knocked off at all. Right. And then there are other seasons in life where the thing that in the previous season would not have fazed us because of all of this other load really just makes us feel like we're gonna fray, right? Those moments where like you have to do some deep breaths or take a quick cry in your car, that there's no bounce there, right? And so if you think about community capacity as every individual's capacity to absorb, right? Or every individual's bounce, that by increasing connectedness and increasing relationship, one individual and one relationship at a time, right? That we actually have the ability to increase the bounce, increase our community's ability to absorb the next whatever it is, the next economic downturn, the next school closure, the next whatever it is, because instead of feeling isolated and alone and absorbing it all on our own, we actually know a couple of people that we like trust and love and know that they love and trust us. And so it's okay, right? That we neurobiologically are obligated to be interdependent with one another, not in isolation. And that interdependence actually gives us strength, right? It actually builds our capacity to absorb and weather life's hardships. So general community capacity is what percolates up out of all of that individual ability, greater individual ability to absorb the shock and to like help others land softly so that we can land on them, or that they can help us land softly when we need it.
So what does this mean for regular people, not just professors at Notre Dame, not just social workers or therapists, but just for everyone, and the way that we treat people, say even people at the grocery store?
So I think the biggest thing to take home is that it all matters. Right. That every interaction that we have actually matters in this like life's teeter-totter of positively versus negatively valenced, or how those interactions feel. What the nervous system really helps us understand is that indifferent is also dangerous. Right. And so from a nervous system perspective, when I am not seen by you, my nervous system understands that as a negative interaction, right? It's a stressful interaction, or it's an interaction that jeopardizes my well-being. So what does this mean for like people is that it matters, like you matter, and the way that you show up matters. And it matters so much more than I think culturally we were ever taught to understand, right? And so like you can literally change somebody's day. I had a meeting, I had a doctor's appointment the other day, and I had to go downtown to the hospital, and you still have to wear masks in the clinical spaces in the hospital. And I was leaving the appointment area, and there was somebody else walking down the hall, and this gentleman just said hi, and I smiled and I said hi back, right? I was still wearing a mask, but he was like, look at that smile. Thanks for, right? You know what I mean, right? My day was totally changed. It's moments, and they all matter, right? And so we get a choice. Right? We get a choice. And it costs us nothing other than intention to really like actually bring a smile to somebody's face. And in doing so, right, we both get bounce. Right? Like it's not just this thing that you're taking, it's a gift for both.
Because you were smiling at him, which was a gift for him, but then he also affirmed you back, which was a gift for you. So oh, that's so powerful. Thank you so much. Today we explored how Dr. Michael came to believe in self-healing communities and what that means for all of us. We are so thankful for you sharing your time with us. Please make sure you're taking care of yourself and others today, and we will see you in the next episode. Just a reminder that this is sponsored by the Self-Healing Communities of the Greater Michiana region. And if you have any more questions or want more information, please follow us at SHC Michiana or email us at selfhealingcommunities@gmail.com. And we would like to say thank you to Fabrice for providing the intro and outro music. Thank you.